Meh, meh.
Why does a 50-cent bag of livestock powder from the feed store pull more bucks to one spot than every commercial deer attractant on the shelf combined? Because the powder addresses the one nutritional deficiency that every buck in whitetail range is fighting from April through September, and his body knows it the moment his nose picks up the scent. The powder is dicalcium phosphate. Most hunters have never heard of it. Most feed store clerks do not know it works on deer. The bag has a picture of a cow on it, not a buck. There is no camo label. There is no hunting brand logo. It sits on the livestock supplement shelf between bags of cattle mineral and poultry grit. And nobody in the hunting world talks about it because no hunting company makes money selling it. But the livestock industry has been using it to supplement cattle and horses for over a century because it provides the two minerals that antlered and horned animals burn through faster than any other, calcium and phosphorus. A whitetail buck growing antlers in the summer is pulling calcium and phosphorus out of his own skeleton to build bone at a rate of roughly a quarter inch per day, about the width of a pencil lead. His body is dissolving his ribs and leg bones to fuel antler growth. When his diet cannot replace those minerals fast enough, his body goes into deficit and his biology drives him to seek out any environmental source of calcium and phosphorus he can find. Natural clay licks, exposed limestone, old burn sites, crumbling concrete foundations, anywhere that calcium and phosphorus leach into the soil, deer find it and return to it compulsively. Dicalcium phosphate is that signal, concentrated into a powder you can buy for 50 cents a pound at any farm supply store. I have been using it for 3 seasons on properties in 4 states, and the camera data has been more consistent than any other single attractant I have tested in 28 years of hunting whitetails. I am going to walk through the biology, the exact setup, and the one mistake that ruins it for most hunters who try it. Stay until the end because there is a soil preparation method using apple cider vinegar that roughly doubles the absorption rate of the minerals into the ground and extends the effective life of a single application from 2 weeks to over a month. Before you use dicalcium phosphate or any mineral attractant, check your state wildlife agency website. Mineral licks, whether natural or man-made, are classified as bait in roughly 20 states and restricted or prohibited during hunting season in several more. Some states allow mineral supplementation from January through August for herd health, but prohibit it within 30 days of the hunting season opener. The rules vary by state, by county in some cases, and by whether you hunt public or private land. 5 minutes on your state website tells you exactly what you can and cannot do. I would rather you never try this technique than use it where it crosses a legal line. The biology of why dicalcium phosphate works better than commercial mineral blocks starts with understanding what a commercial block actually contains. Pick up any mineral block from the pro shop and read the ingredient label. The primary ingredients are salt, at 40 to 60% of the total weight, and then a list of trace minerals including calcium, phosphorus, zinc, copper, manganese, and selenium in small concentrations. The salt is the attractant, the minerals are the supplement. The problem is that salt makes up the majority of the block, and salt is cheap and widely available in nature. Deer can find sodium at any livestock pasture, any road where winter salt was applied, and any natural salt deposit in the soil. Sodium is not scarce. Calcium and phosphorus are. A commercial mineral block provides calcium at roughly 3 to 8% of total weight and phosphorus at 2 to 5%. The remaining 50 to 70% is salt and filler. You are paying $22 to $28 for a block that is mostly salt, with a small amount of the minerals the deer actually need. Dicalcium phosphate is 22% calcium and 18% phosphorus by weight. That is roughly 5 times the calcium concentration and 4 times the phosphorus concentration of a commercial mineral block with 0 salt filler. When you pour dicalcium phosphate into the soil, you are creating a concentrated source of the 2 minerals that a buck's body is screaming for during antler growth season. The deer's response is not curiosity, it is compulsion. His biology is driving him to that spot the same way thirst drives him to water. You have probably seen this behavior on your own property without knowing what caused it. A specific patch of dirt where deer paw the ground obsessively, licking the soil, coming back day after day to the same 2-foot circle of churned up earth. That is a natural mineral deposit. The deer found it through scent, cataloged it in their mental map, and returned to it the same way they return to a water source. Dicalcium phosphate lets you create that same deposit wherever you want it. And unlike a commercial block that dissolves in rain and needs replacing every 6 weeks, the dical integrates into the soil and keeps producing as long as moisture cycles the minerals to the surface. Rain does not destroy it. Rain activates it. Every time it rains, your site gets refreshed, while the guy down the road watches his $24 block shrink into a lump the size of a baseball. The setup takes about 5 minutes and costs less than $1. Buy dicalcium phosphate at any farm supply store. It is sold as a livestock feed supplement in 50-pound bags for $20 to $30, which works out to roughly 40 to 60 cents per pound. You need about 1 pound per site, roughly the volume of a large coffee mug. Some stores sell it in smaller bags or by the scoop. It is a fine white or off-white powder that looks like baking flour and has a faintly chalky mineral smell. If the feed store clerk does not know what you are asking for, the product code is usually listed as dical or dicalcium phosphate feed grade. It is the same product used in cattle, horse, and poultry feed. Everything in this video, plus 60 more field-tested techniques, is in The Buck Hunter's Bible. 90 pages of deer behavior science, scent control, scouting methods, stand placement, and rut phase tactics with a quick reference card you can take to the stand. Link in the description below. QR code on screen. Dig a shallow pit in the soil, about 12 inches across and 4 inches deep, roughly the size and depth of a dinner plate pushed into the ground. Mix 1 pound of dicalcium phosphate with the loose soil you removed from the pit. Stir it together with your hand or a stick until the powder is evenly distributed through the dirt. Then pack the mixed soil back into the pit and tamp it down lightly. You are not piling powder on the surface. You are integrating the minerals into the soil at a depth where moisture will keep them active and where deer will paw and lick the ground to access them. A surface pile of white powder looks unnatural, and in my experience, deer approach it more cautiously than minerals integrated into the soil. I learned this the hard way on my first attempt in western NE sandhills, where I poured a cup of straight dicalcium phosphate on top of a bare patch of sand next to a cattle tank. 3 weeks on camera with 0 deer visits. The powder sat there untouched, turning into a hard white crust after the first rain. I dug a pit 20 yards away, mixed the same amount of powder into the sandy soil, and had 6 deer on camera within 5 days. Same powder, same property, same week. The difference was soil integration versus surface application. The deer would not touch the surface pile, but they pawed the integrated pit until it was a crater, twice its original size. I went back 2 weeks later, and the pit had been excavated to roughly 8 inches deep, about the depth of a shoebox. The deer had dug through the original 4 inches of mixed soil and kept going into the subsoil below because the mineral had leached downward with rain. They were chasing the calcium. I have never seen deer work a commercial block with that kind of intensity. A block gets licked. A dical pit gets excavated. Placement follows the standard rules for any mineral site, 15 to 25 yards from your stand position, roughly the distance from the pitcher's mound to home plate. Downwind of your stand on the prevailing wind, so approaching deer do not cross your scent column. And near an existing travel corridor, a scrape line, which is a series of ground scrapes where bucks paw the dirt and deposit scent along a travel route or a trail junction. The dicalcium phosphate creates a pull that redirects existing traffic. It does not create traffic from empty timber. I tested this on a flat with 0 deer sign in NE, Tennessee on a Smoky Mountain foothill property. 2 weeks, 2 deer photos, both incidental, moved the pit to a bench along a used trail 60 yards away and had 9 visits in the first week, including a 3.5-year-old 8-point that showed up 3 times in daylight. Same powder, different location. The minerals attract deer, but you have to put them where deer are already moving. I keep making this mistake across different methods and different videos, and I keep relearning the same lesson. The attractant does not create traffic. It redirects traffic that already exists. Find the trails first, then put the mineral on or near the trail. I should have this tattooed on my forearm by now, given how many times I have wasted product learning it again. The timing of application matters more with dicalcium phosphate than with any other mineral product, because the deer's demand for calcium and phosphorus is seasonal. From late March through mid-September, Bucks are growing antlers, and their mineral demand is at its peak. This is when dicalcium phosphate produces the strongest response because the biological drive to seek calcium and phosphorus is highest. A site established in April will build consistent traffic by May and peak in June and July when antler growth is fastest. By October, the antlers have hardened and the mineral demand drops significantly. A site established in October will still attract some deer because calcium and phosphorus are always beneficial for skeletal health. But the compulsive response you see during antler growth season is absent. Does are less responsive than bucks because they do not have the same seasonal mineral demand, but pregnant and lactating does will visit calcium phosphorus sites during spring and early summer when fetal skeletal development drives their own mineral needs up. A buddy who manages a 1,200-acre hunting club in the Mississippi Delta switched from commercial mineral blocks to dicalcium phosphate pits 2 seasons ago. His first-year camera data showed a 4 times increase in mature buck visits at the DI-Cal sites compared to the same locations, baited with commercial blocks the previous year. Same cameras, same positions, same time of year. The commercial blocks were producing roughly 4 to 6 buck visits per site per month. The DI-Cal pits produced roughly 16 to 22. I want to be careful with those numbers because his club has 6 cameras and 2 seasons of comparison data, which is not a controlled experiment. The weather was different between the 2 seasons. The deer density could have changed. A dozen variables I cannot account for. But a 3 to 4 times increase in buck visits across 6 sites in the same positions with the same cameras is hard to dismiss as coincidence. Something changed. The DI-Cal was the only new variable. His theory, and I agree with it, is that the concentrated calcium and phosphorus in the dicalcium phosphate produces a stronger mineral scent signal in the soil than the diluted mineral content of a salt-heavy commercial block. The deer's nose detects a higher concentration of the minerals it is craving, and the response is proportionally stronger. A commercial block is a whisper. The DI-Cal pit is a shout. And a buck in mineral deficit during June is not walking past a shout any more than you would walk past a water fountain during a July afternoon in Texas. The drive is biological. It is not optional for the deer. His skeleton is being consumed from the inside to build antler bone, and his body will seek any external source of replacement minerals with the same urgency it seeks food and water. Understanding that urgency is what separates this from every novelty scent and curiosity attractant on the market. Those products trigger investigation. Dicalcium phosphate triggers need. And a buck in mineral deficit during June does not walk past a shout. I want to be transparent about the limits of what I know. The camera data from my properties and my buddy's club is anecdotal. 4 properties over 3 seasons with multi-cell cameras is not a university study. The seasonal mineral demand biology is well documented in animal nutrition research from Texas A&M and the Quality Deer Management Association. But the specific comparison of dicalcium phosphate response rates versus commercial block response rates has not been studied in a controlled setting that I am aware of. Run your own test. Put a commercial block on one camera and a DI-Cal pit on another, and let the photos tell you which one pulls more deer. That is the only data that matters on your specific property. Look, everything I am walking through here is in the Buck Hunter's Bible. 90 pages, scent control, scouting, stand placement, rut tactics, plus a quick reference card for the stand. Link in the description, QR code on screen. The condition where dicalcium phosphate underperforms is on properties with naturally high calcium and phosphorus in the soil. Limestone-rich regions, which includes much of the central Kentucky bluegrass, parts of the Shenandoah Valley, and the limestone karst regions of southern Indiana and central Tennessee, already have high calcium and phosphorus levels in the soil and groundwater. Deer in those areas are less mineral deficient, and the biological drive to seek supplemental sources is weaker. If your property is on limestone bedrock, the response to dical will be less dramatic than on acidic sandy soils, where calcium and phosphorus are naturally scarce. The western NE Sandhills property where I first tested this had some of the most calcium-poor soil I have ever seen, and the deer response was the strongest I have recorded on any mineral product. The Mississippi Delta property has heavy clay soil that is moderately deficient, and the response was strong but less explosive than the sandhills. Your soil type matters. If you want to know whether your soil is calcium deficient, a basic soil test from your county agricultural extension office costs about $15 and tells you exactly what minerals are present and what is missing. That $15 test might be the best investment you make before setting up any mineral program. I got my Sandhills property tested through the UNL extension office, and the results showed calcium at roughly 1/3 of the recommended level for pasture health. That explained why the deer hit the die-cal like they had been waiting for it their entire lives. The deficit was severe, and the supplement filled a genuine biological gap. On a limestone-rich property, the same test might show calcium levels at or above recommended, and the response to supplemental calcium would be proportionally weaker. Know your soil before you invest time in a mineral program. The apple cider vinegar preparation I promised at the beginning is what turns a standard die-cal pit from a 2-week attractant into a month-long mineral station. Before you mix the dicalcium phosphate into the soil, pour roughly half a cup of apple cider vinegar, about $3 for a bottle at the grocery store, into the pit and let it soak into the dirt for 5 minutes. The acetic acid in the vinegar lowers the soil pH, making it more acidic. Dicalcium phosphate dissolves faster and more completely in acidic conditions, which means the minerals integrate deeper into the soil and become available to plant roots and soil organisms that continue to cycle the minerals upward to the surface long after the initial application has been consumed by deer. On the Northeast Tennessee property, I ran a side-by-side test with one vinegar-treated pit and one untreated pit 50 yards apart on the same ridge. The untreated pit was fully consumed, pawed out to bare subsoil within 12 days. The vinegar-treated pit was still producing deer visits on camera at day 31. Same amount of powder, same soil type, same deer population. The vinegar extended the productive life of the site by roughly 2.5 times. My wife found a bottle of apple cider vinegar in my truck next to a bag of white powder and a banded face mask and asked me if I was starting a very unusual side business. I told her it was deer hunting chemistry. She said that was not as reassuring as I thought it was. She has a point. From the outside, my truck looks like evidence of something illegal. From the inside, it is the most cost-effective mineral attraction program in whitetail hunting. Perspective matters. I told her it was deer hunting chemistry. She said that was not as reassuring as I thought it was. But the Moultrie camera on the NE Tennessee Ridge does not care about reassurance. It cares about the 8-point that showed up 11 times in 31 days to lick a patch of dirt that cost me 50 cents in powder and 25 cents in vinegar, 75 cents. For a month of mature buck activity on one camera site. The commercial mineral program I was running before cost me $24 per block, replaced every 6 weeks, 3 sites per property. That is roughly $280 per year per property. The die-cal program cost me about $5 per year per property for the same number of sites with better camera results. Over 10 seasons, that is $2,800 in commercial minerals, replaced by $50 in feed, store powder. My nose jammer spray costs more per can than an entire season of die-cal sites. My elite archery riser costs more than a lifetime supply. The deer do not read the label on the bag. They read the mineral concentration in the soil. And the cheapest source of concentrated calcium and phosphorus in America is sitting in a 50-pound bag at your local feed store with a picture of a cow on it, not a buck. Try one site this spring, run a camera over it for a month. And when the camera data comes back with more mature buck photos than you got from the entire previous season of commercial blocks, ask yourself why nobody at the pro shop ever mentioned the word dicalcium phosphate. The answer is the same reason they never mention pennies or coffee grounds. There is no margin in selling you a product that costs 50 cents a pound. There is plenty of margin in selling you the same minerals mixed with salt and filler for $24 a block. The deer figured out which one to choose a long time ago. Your turn. Set up one site this spring in the most calcium-poor soil you can find on your property. Run a camera, count the photos. And when the 4-year-old buck you have never photographed before shows up 3 days later, pawing a hole in the ground to lick 50 cents worth of livestock powder, you will understand why the guys who use this stopped buying commercial blocks a long time ago. Some things are too cheap to advertise. This is one of them.